All right, so our daily readiness observation. So this form you can find in our exercise and stress management course online. If you really want an in-depth understanding of how to implement this and a lot of the science behind the system and the tool. For the purpose of this video, we'll kind of walk through high-level daily readiness observation and why we should be using this tool, especially now in kind of today's age where stress is at an all-time high. So clients come in, they're stressed from, let's say, the bad things that they've seen in the media, work stress, life stress, financial stress, but they know they still have to get a workout in. What do we do? Right, so specifically, what do we do? So the first thing we do is we ask them a series of questions, right, categorized, and for the purposes of this video will be 3 buckets instead of 4, really helping us to get a clear understanding of where they are in each stress bucket, because we know stress is going to hurt results, it's going to lower immune function, as opposed to what we would hope happens with exercise, which would be the opposite of that, right? We want them to boost immune function, we want them to improve results. So we use this tool to basically meet them where they need to be met on the day of their session. All right, so step 1, how many hours of sleep did you get last night? Do you feel adequately rested? Scale of 1 to 3. 1 would be the best score. 3 would be the worst score. So again, low number is the best, high number is the worst. When did you eat last? What did you eat? And what has your water intake been like? Okay. And then question number 3 in bucket number 1, right? After this session, what is the most important thing you are going to do today? The most demanding, right? So they have another 10 hours of work. Are they going to go run a 5K? Are they going to have just a busy, stressful day ahead? What does that look like in bucket number 1? And then we basically score that, right? So from 1 to 3, right? So we're taking basically the median score of these 3 questions. We're plugging them in here for bucket number 1, okay? Bucket number 2, right? On physical information, the first one being lifestyle information, the second on physical information. What physical activity have you engaged in over the past 24 hours, right? So again, did they just run a 5K? Did they just do 8 hours of yard work that was just strenuous, of bending and flexing and rotating and heavy lifting? What would you say that you're, or would you say that you're in pain today, right? So do they have some low back pain? Do they have some shoulder pain? Do they have some leg pain? Because they just did a crazy leg workout. Who knows? And then last question here: are you feeling fatigued or tired, tight, or sore? Right. Again, we want to rank this. We want to quantify on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not at all, right? Very low. 3 being very high in this bucket, in the physical bucket. Okay, we're going to bypass the move observation again. If you wanted to find out more about the move observation and specifically how stress impacts movements and how to basically, provide a qualitative analysis and assessment of movement and rhythm and timing, we can definitely dive into the move observations in our exercise and stress management course. But for today, we're going to move to the 3rd bucket here, which is the mental and emotional bucket. Okay. So the questions here: how would you describe your emotional state at the moment? What is your level of motivation? And do you feel mentally ready to begin? Again, scoring each of these questions 1 to 3, find the average aggregate score, place it here in their bucket, and then we are going to summarize this, right? So let's say bucket number 1, let's say they said, hey, I'm a 2, right, on that, right? Then they said, hey, on bucket number 2, I'm a 1, right? And then bucket number 3 here, which would be step 4, right? So let's say they then said 2 again, right? So now their total sum would be 5, right? So now we need to look at, okay, well, what does that mean? what does that look like? Right, so if we go down here, we basically get kind of a rank score and what this looks like, right? So our scores on the individual buckets, we already talked about, no limitations. 2 would be a caution, and 3 would be, we need to stop, refer out if it's severe injury and pain, obviously, and then, what needs to be the focus of that workout, right? How do we adjust, the tempo, the rest, the recovery, all of those things that we'll talk about here in a second. So then the scores, the total of 3 buckets. So that's this column here, the sum total. 3 out of 9, no limitations. We are good to go. We get the green light, baby. Anywhere between 4 and 6, there's some cautions, right? We want to look at the highest bucket here between our 1, 2, or again step 4, which would be bucket 3 here. What's the highest bucket, and what are some things that we need to do to meet that person where they need to be met for that workout, right? To adjust that. And again, a 7 to 9 would be the highest stress level, right? Given that they're coming in with multiple buckets at 2 or 3. And so now we need to stop, we need to pause, we need to ask ourselves a few questions. Okay, why is that? What do I need to adjust in today's workout? And then really focus on the things that are going to help them improve both the quality of the workout, the recovery and repair post-workout, thus not adding to the stress bucket, right? Because we don't want to add stress on top of stress, because obviously that's not going to do what we want for immune function and recovery. And so this is kind of our cheat sheet here as far as the physical, mental, emotional, and lifestyle strategies for the numbers that we see here. That would be caution, stop, refer, focus, right? So what I want to direct your attention to is kind of the top 3, which when we look at this is kind of our bang for our buck. We get the most bang for our buck. And so if any of these 4 to 6, 7 to 9, we really want to look at, okay, how can we adjust the intensity, right? So if your typical intensity is 80 to 90%, can we take it to 60 to 70 that day, right? If your typical volume, let's say you're doing 3 to 4 sets typically of each exercise, can you take it down to 2 or 3? Right? Doesn't have to be drastic changes on this, but definitely can look at making some changes in each of these that will add up and pay off big for your client post session. And then recovery and regen, right? Can we give them a little bit more rest? If you typically do 30 seconds rest in between each set, can we do 45, right? If we're taking a minute in between each kind of circuit, can we give them a minute and a half? Can we give them 2 minutes, right? Where maybe they can do some foam rolling, light stretch, some mobility, within that 2 minutes rest. So it's kind of an active rest. Again, monitoring, heart rate. We could, throw in some games and play in there. There's a lot of different things that we can kind of plug and play for recovery and regen. And then also, if we're typically training 5 days a week, can we do 4 days a week with maybe a day of complete rest in between? Maybe they, we refer them to a massage therapist, or maybe they just have, kind of a complete rest and relaxation day where they focus on mental mindset recovery. Again, this is plug and play. We're not going to get into each of these other areas here, skill and execution, focusing on those aspects. Time under tension would be another one we can focus on. Tissue work, again, more self-myofascial release, more mobilizers, more mobility work, more stretching, different things like that we do on tissue work. Obviously is great for repair, and again, apply where needed, right? It depends on the buckets that were the most high here, right? Obviously, so in the physical bucket, if they had a lot of soreness, they had a lot of tightness, right? It might make a whole lot of sense to just plug and play the recovery regen and then specifically tissue work in that bucket. All right, so just assign and align, right, the appropriate measure to help meet them where they need to be met. So hopefully this tool helps. This is our D.R.O 1-day tool. We'll shoot a separate video for our multi-day tool. helping to equip and empower you as the professional to deliver unprecedented results with your clients, especially clients that are stressed, that maybe the everything that they're kind of up against outside of the gym, could potentially negatively impact what's going on inside the gym in your session. But you are smart, you are savvy, you're educated and empowered, and so you're going to be able to basically differentiate yourself from the average Joe trainer by having a tool like your daily readiness observation tool and meet that client where they need to do that. So hopefully this has been beneficial for you, and we look forward to hearing more great results from you and your clients coming out of the gyms.